Bonjour, bonsoir, salut y buenos días, buenas tardes, hola a todos, مرحبا, خوش geldiniz, أهلا وسهلا فيكم جميعا, and hello, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for everyone who signed in today for the Open Round Table and the first webinar hosted by the International Emerging Professionals Working Group, or EPWG as many may know us. Here is a very warm welcome to everyone to the second session of today's global webinar in a celebration of the International Day for Monuments and Sites, where we are ready to a enriching journey through African, Arabian, and European cultural heritage by featuring 12 speakers from different countries in this region under this year's themes, Complex Past and Diverse Futures. And hereby, I would like to thank all of our speakers for their dedicated time and to make this event happen. And of course, for all the national committees and EP's representative for their collaboration. And please allow me to give a special thanks to ICOMOS España, ICOMOS Argentina, ICOMOS Mexico, ICOMOS India, and ICOMOS Slovenia. And finally, a special one to the interim steering committee that's working on the establishing the national committee of ICOMOS in Syria. All of them for their wonderful collaboration. And last but not least, we give a big thanks to our mentors for their ongoing and unlimited support for the ICOMOS Advisory Committee President, Mikel Lenda, our special keynote speaker for this round. At that, by way of a few introductions, I'm Nader Nouri, the Multilingual Communication Officer for the International EPWG, and I also serve as an ambassador for the ICOMOS General Assembly 2023. And here on the call with me, my fellow EPWG Secretary and focal point, Suhaila Koj from Turkey, and the coordinators of the MLC team, Laure Mariquet from Belgium, who's coordinating this session with me.
Bonjour à tous, moi je suis Laure Marie, comme Nader vient de le dire, je viens d'ICOMOS Belgique, représentante PE d'ICOMOS Wallonie-Bruxelles et responsable des communications multilingues pour le groupe de travail des professionnels émergents d'ICOMOS. Pour la prochaine, next slide please, Suhaila. Thank you. We are very happy that you could join us today. As you can see, we have a very busy schedule with 12 presentations. Our speakers will take us on a journey through Africa, Arab states, and Europe case study on natural and cultural heritage, tangible and intangible, local communities, history, religion, and new technologies. Each speaker will introduce themselves briefly at the beginning of their presentation in their native language if they wish. We have given our speakers the challenge to prepare a 5-minute presentation. So you will see a timer in the corner of your screen indicating the time left for your presentation. We thank all of our speakers for respecting this timing and for their presentation. After the presentation, Mikel Lenda, President of the ICOMOS Advisory Committee, will share some words with us. And finally, together with Nader, we will be moderating the question and answer session. Priority will be given to live questions to participants using the raise hand options at the bottom of your screen. Thank you for being with us. Make yourself comfortable with a cup of coffee or tea and enjoy the great adventure that is this global cafe. Thank you.
Thank you, Laure. And before we move to the rest of our program, I would like also to warm welcome those who are joining us through the ICOMOS International Facebook page and from the group of the Emerging Professional. In addition, those here on Zoom. Now, in order to ensure that the program is smooth as enjoyable as possible for everyone, we will now share a few housekeeping rules. So firstly, please do make sure that your microphone is off to avoid any background sound distractions. We also invited you to share your question later on when we open the discussion and the Q&A segment. We'll do our best to arrange any question raised in the chat box here. And also, please feel free to switch off your video if needed. And if you would like to speak, please switch it on and do ensure that there's enough light. And we'd love to put names on faces, and due to security reason, please, we kindly ask you to all people here in Zoom to write down their real names and country. Now, without any further delay, let's move through to our presentations.
So our first speakers are from ICOMOS España. I leave the floor to Héctor Aliaga de Miguel and Clara Villalba Montaner.
Merci Laure. Thank you, Nader. Bonjour, everyone. And thank you to the EPWG for letting us participate today in this amazing webinar or Global Café. It's a pleasure to be part of this EPWG, you know. Well, we want to share the screen with EPs from all over the world. And today, Hector and I are presenting on behalf of the whole EP local team of ICOMOS Spain. We are going to speak in English and then Hector will speak in French. On va présenter une partie en anglais et une autre en français. Suivant, s'il vous plaît. Next. Okay. Traditionally, knowledge is transferred in many ways. Books and encyclopedias are usually the most reliable sources of information. However, we are aware that nowadays access to information on any field is increasingly accessible through multiple digital platforms, like the one you're seeing on the screen. One of the most widely used is undoubtedly Wikipedia, but there are still many topics on which this knowledge network does not publish enough information, or if there is, it might be inaccurate or incomplete. ICOMOS Spain wants to take advantage of the powerful engine of Wikipedia, as well as the knowledge and dedication of its network of volunteer specialists to help promote its mission, help filling the gaps with quality entries on cultural heritage in all its dimensions, built heritage, landscapes, intangible heritage, etc. Therefore, the main objective of the project is called Collaborative Heritage, is not only to create quality content which can be accessible by general public and is validated by experts in collaborative environments, but also to establish a permanent content creation or edition group in these environments to help other cultural institutions to disseminate its heritage in an accessible way. Next, please. During this Heritage Week, we have launched the project Patrimonio Colaborativo, or Collaborative Heritage, on our website, which you can feel free to take a look in this link that you're seeing on the screen. Next, please. The specific objectives of the project are having previous training of some ICOMOS Spain members on content creation in collaborative environments, then being able to identify heritage content that is not yet shared on Wikipedia or that is not scientifically supported, and then creating and revising content through the organization of editathons within ICOMOS Spain. Next, please. If the former objectives are fulfilled in the future, next please, we would also like to appeal to other cultural institutions which can join these initiatives and then support other institutions that want to create collaborative content on cultural heritage in Spain, being such as ICOM, Hispania Nostra, some governments, etc. Next, please. And ideally to export this idea to the rest of the network in ICOMOS. Hector, over to you.
Thank you very much, Clara. Next slide, please. No, it will be in French. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. So, mais comment le faire? C'est une étape à la fois. Alors, la première phase du projet sera réalisée en collaboration avec des experts en création du contenu de Wikimedia Espagne. Hier, par exemple, dans le cadre de la Journée internationale des monuments et sites, nous avons célébré notre premier éditathon qui précédera la création d'un groupe de travail permanent sur l'édition au sein d'ICOMOS Espagne. Suivant, please. Next slide. Un éditaton, c'est un événement au cours duquel les rédacteurs de communautés en ligne, comme Wikipédia, modifient et améliorent le sujet ou un type de contenu spécifique. Dans ce cas, le thème était Discovering Heritage. C'est notre page de Wikipédia en nous. Suivant, please. Les événements éditants comprenant généralement une formation de base à l'édition pour les nouveaux éditeurs et peuvent être combinés à une rencontre sociale plus générale. Ils peuvent se découler en personne, en ligne ou dans une version mixte des deux. Cette fois-ci, nous avons dû le faire entièrement en tant qu'édite à temps virtuel. Next. Plus de 30 personnes nous ont rejoints hier. En plus de 20 nouvelles entrées ont été ajoutées à Wikipédia. Pas mal pour la première fois. Next, please. Ici, nous pouvons voir ici quelques-uns des plus de 30 participants qui ont pris part à la session d'hier. Next. Et dans ce deux diapositives finales, vous pouvez voir 2 des 15 articles qui ont été téléchargés hier grâce à la participation collaborative. Voici d'autres exemples. Next. Next slide. Next, please. Et finalement, très bientôt, nous créerons une communauté d'édition. Nous vous formerons davantage et nous commencerons à planifier de nouveaux éditatons des autres activités. Nous vous tiendrons au courant. Final diapositive, s'il vous plaît. Next. Nous vous tiendrons au courant. Bonne journée internationale des monuments et sites. We will keep you updated. Happy International Day of Monuments and Sites. Thank you very much. Merci à tous. Muchas gracias.
Muchas gracias for Hector y Clara. Thank you so much for your presentation. And now we are going to the next presenter, Aylin Akçabuzan Tuşkuran from Turkey. The floor is yours, Aylin.
Thank you very much for inviting me, and thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. My name is Aylin from ICOMOS Turkey. Today I'm going to present Viegnatia as a potential World Heritage Transnational Serial nomination in Turkey and the Balkans. Next, please. Next slide, please. Okay, the Via Egnatia, the Roman road built 2nd century BC from the Adriatic coast to Byzantium, named after the proconsul in Macedonia, Egnatius. The Via Egnatia was the main road from the Rome to the east. 2 branches of the road starting respectively from Dyrrhachium and Apollonia, united in the Scumbi Valley, closed all the Balkan range by Lake Ohri, and descended to Thessaloniki by the way of Heraklia, Aordia, Ige, and Pella. And then it followed the Thracian coast to Byzantium, known as Istanbul. And also it followed the line of a trade route through the Balkan range. Next, please. Also, next slide. Also, the Via Egnatia is a continuation of Via Appia, which starts from Rome and reaches to Brindisi port. This road from Brindisi goes by sea to Apollonia, and the ranch goes from here to east by land. And the general route of the road, however, is not difficult to discern and would have closely matched with the existing highway to Istanbul today. Here in the map, we see the excavation areas and the modern road today from Turkey to Greece and passing through other countries, other Balkan countries. Next, please. Next slide, please. And we can talk about the archaeological values. Here you see there are lots of components on the road. Here we see Philippi Roman Forum, and there are lots of milestones in Thessaloniki, also in Istanbul. Next, please. Also, we can continue. Some parts of Via Egnatia were shown in the Pöttinger maps. So we can talk about the historical value, also economic value, and the oldest coins of the colony you see, and it's used for as a trade route. And also we can discuss the natural value. It's passing through all the hills, and it's a beautiful paysage. a beautiful landscape. And here we can also learn a lot from the technical value and technological side of Roman construction techniques. Here there are lots of bridges, and we can learn a lot from construction technology. Next, please. Also, it has a multi-layer value. We can see the modern city, and on the modern city, there are a new, under the modern city, we see the traces of Via Egnatia. Next, please. As also, we can talk about the cultural value. Many different ethnic groups use the Via Egnatia and met each other along its trails and its caravanserais. Greeks, Jews, Pomaks, Turks, lots of different from different ethnic groups use this road in a political, geographical context. And also some writers in the literature, we can see the Lear's, we can see from Lear's sketches made in 19th century during his first trip to Albania. So there are, you can see from the picture traces of Via Egnatia. Next, please. Next. Also, the final point of Via Egnatia is in Istanbul, the milestone in Istanbul next to Ayasofya, the Million Stone, the final point of Via Egnatia. Next, please. So we can see other traces in Trakya region, ICOMOS Ayasofya Church and archaeological remains in Enes. Also other traces of Via Egnatia in Turkey. Also King's Daughter Basilica in Enes. Next, please. As an outstanding universal value scenario, we can also talk about the functional continuity of the road. It's also continuity in the function. It used in the past, in the 17th century, as a military movements and commercial relations. Next, please. You know, you see here that the Durres port nowadays is used as a trade center. And the most important points, you see the criteria set. These are our proposal. Is a main great road of ancient Romans, and we can read the exchange and dialogue between countries and regions, and also symbol of culture interaction. And also refer to the United Nations Universal Declaration on Cultural Diversity. Transnational heritage inventory helps to this cultural diversity, and we can improve cultural rules, cultural itineraries to produce a mutual understanding and to protect our culture, common cultural heritage. And we need a shared vision for the future and shared responsibility, and of course, participatory approach we need to construct, and contribution to living cultural diversity. And thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you, Aileen, for this fantastic presentation on this transnational heritage for Turkey and the Balkans. The different value you presented give us an idea of the heritage value of this Via Egnatia. So thank you for that. Our third speaker comes from Syria and is part of ICOMOS International. Abir Arkawi, the floor is yours.
Thank you all for this very good organization. I think I want to speak today about the city Palmyra and the most important city for cultural heritage in my country, Syria. Please, next. Of course, Syria is one of the world's most impressive cultural heritage in terms of the number of the historic significance of its monuments. Palmyra, lying in the heart of Syria and oasis in the middle of the arid desert, it could be considered as a part of this human heritage. In 1980, was registered one of the world's and national heritage list for its huge historical importance. In addition, it was the focus of many studies and researches in the field of restoration. Then the disasters happened. Many monuments were demolished. Temple of Baal, Temple of Baal-Shamin, and Arc of Triumph, and the castle, and lately many other monuments. Next, please. Here's the picture of the old city Palmyra, and of course also the location of the most important monument, and show every monument related to specific period. And for that we will see that many monuments concentrate in the near the Ouad. Of course, because of Palmyra, why Palmyra was very famous, because the location of Palmyra was in the Silk Route, and it played very huge role during many civilizations. And for that, we can see that the influence of this cooperation between different countries, the influence of the monument related to its cross between West and West, and also the tradition of the people who are living in Palmyra. Next, please. Of course, here some pictures show the statue of the Nubia, which is very famous because she ruled Palmyra for a long time, and then at the end there were struggle with the Romans. And of course, pictures of reconstruction of the city itself during the Byzantine time, and also reconstruction of the temple. Next, please. Next, please. Here, the location of the one before. No, okay. Here show the picture of the map of Palmyra, and also the location of the Bel Temple. It's inside the red circle, and the big picture show the temple itself. We have to know that according to the criteria as a World Heritage for Palmyra, we consider Bel Temple one of the most important images. Next, please. Cooperation with my faculty of architecture, with other stakeholders. We cooperate with 200 students and professors, and of course also architect Nader Nouri was one of the key who cooperated to give some pictures about the vision of Palmyra after destruction. Here is a picture of the next, please. Show the city and its most famous monument before the destruction. Next, please. And after the destruction, we will see that the destruction was too heavy, and many important monuments were destructed. Next, please. Here, picture of the Bel Temple before the construction, and because there were a big reconstruction work, and also please next, please. And here's the picture of the destruction, and also next, please. Also next, please. And also the work of the students, how they think that could be an image for the temple of Bel after this destruction. Next, please. Please, here also some pictures show the ideas which the master student did about the temple itself. And after this, please also the slides very quickly, because these are just maps, plans, and sections and elevation, which show all the work which was done by students. And we hope that it will be give a good picture about the future, what we will do with that temple itself, and can we do anything about the station work. Over. Thanks.
The time's up, please. Can you conclude? Thank you.
Of course, these are the works. Okay, and at least the memory of Khalid Al. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Dr. Abir, for your wonderful presentation. It was a privilege for me to be part of this workshop that has been done under Damascus University Faculty of Architecture. Thank you so much. And now we are moving to the next speaker. It's from Tunisia, Faika Bajawi. You may say a few words to introduce yourself, please, if you want. Thank you.
Bonjour, je vous remercie infiniment pour l'organisation de cette journée et de donner l'occasion de discuter, de débattre de notre patrimoine donc, dans ce cadre-là. Donc, je suis Faika Bajawi, architecte urbaniste, ayant travaillé à l'association Sauvegarde la Médina du Tunis et actuellement membre ICOMOS et vice-président du comité international des villes et des villages historiques. Donc, j'ai choisi de partager avec vous l'expérience comment faire revivre des monuments anciens, puisque notre thème c'est les passés complexes et les futurs divers. Donc, j'ai choisi de partager avec vous une réflexion autour d'une madrasa dans la Médina du Tunis. Donc, la madrasa al-Mufassiri. S'il vous plaît, next, please. Next. Voilà. Tout d'abord, j'aimerais bien présenter un peu la Médina du Tunis au 19e siècle. Donc, et c'était à l'époque la cité, au milieu il y avait la mosquée, et qui était la mosquée du Tunis, qui était en même temps une mosquée, mais aussi une université, et tout autour s'implantaient les madrasas. Next, please. Donc, la madrasa, comme institution, elle est apparue en Tunisie, donc à l'époque hafide, pratiquement au XIIIe siècle. C'est une institution qui prend en charge les collègues, donc les étudiants, donc elle assure l'hébergement des étudiants de la mosquée Zitouna, et aussi, dans certains cas, de leur cheikh, donc et elle assure essentiellement l'hébergement, mais aussi on pouvait assurer certains cours dans les madrasas. Les principales composantes d'une madrasa, comme on le voit sur ce plan, donc elle est composée essentiellement d'un grand patio, donc le shan, autour duquel s'organisent les différentes composantes, essentiellement le masjid, donc la salle de prière qui prend donc la meilleure place qui est orientée vers la Mecque, et tout autour donc sont organisées les chambres, les cellules, parce que c'est les refs, donc c'est toutes petites pièces où héberger donc les étudiants de la mosquée Zitouna, et un autre élément qui est la salle d'ablution, la mira, qui en général est placée dans un espace réduit de l'édifice. Next, please. Donc, on peut classer deux types de madrasa dans la Médina de Tunis. On peut parler d'un troisième type, mais le plus important, ce sont deux types. C'est les madrasas qui ont été édifiées à l'époque hafside et qui sont généralement d'un aspect plutôt d'une grande simplicité. Elles sont dépourvues de toute ornementation, hormis quelques colonnes en marbre. Le sol est revêtu essentiellement en pierre calcaire, la pierre cadette qui est une pierre tunisienne. Next, please. En opposition donc à l'austérité des madrasas hafsides, les madrasas qui ont été construites à l'époque ottomane, donc principalement au XVIIe, XVIIIe siècle, se caractérisent plutôt par une grande ampleur au niveau de l'architecture et au niveau des éléments de décoration. Donc on voit le marquage par exemple d'une madrasa là, avec le marquage de l'entrée, au niveau des salles de prière aussi des éléments de décoration de la céramique, de la narchahdi, de l'utilisation donc du marbre. Next please. Donc, avant de passer, donc j'aimerais bien dire un petit mot par rapport à la troisième typologie de madrasa, qui sont les madrasas qui ont été construites au XXe siècle, puisque le nombre d'étudiants est devenu très important à la mosquée Zitouna. Donc, avant de montrer l'exemple de la madrasa al-Montassiri, j'aimerais bien préciser une chose, c'est qu'au lendemain de l'indépendance, la Tunisie, si vous voulez, exceptionnelle, et la suppression de la législation des waqf, ce qui fait toutes ces madrasas et tous ces monuments se sont trouvés donc vidés de leur première fonction, et c'était donc des familles qui arrivaient donc de la campagne à la recherche de l'emploi et d'un toit dans la capitale. Next, please. Donc la madrasa al-Montassiriya, c'est un édifice donc, qui a été édifié au XVe siècle par le prince Hafsid Abu Abdallah al-Montassir. Et cette madrasa aussi, elle était très importante parce que c'était la deuxième madrasa après la Chamaïa, qui est la première madrasa à l'époque Hafsid. Donc, et on voit que cette madrasa, elle a un très grand patio. On voit aussi le développement de sa façade. Next, please. Donc, elle était habitée par des familles, donc divers projets, ces familles ont été relogées ailleurs. Et la question qui se posait, que faire de ce monument? Donc, l'idée, c'était de le restaurer, de le réaffecter, donc de lui donner une nouvelle fonction. En l'occurrence, on l'a réaffecté en jardin d'enfants. Next, please. Avant de conclure, juste, j'aimerais bien dire un petit mot. C'est que le plus important dans cette réflexion, c'est que comment assurer au bâtiment du passé une nouvelle vie, comment faire vivre de nouvelles activités dans des bâtiments anciens et ces bâtiments anciens, et comment les faire changer selon les mutations sociales, culturelles de nos sociétés. Et je vous remercie.
Merci beaucoup, Faïka, pour l'explication de ces deux types de médersa, de la Médina de Tunis, et pour l'exemple de réhabilitation que vous nous avez présenté. Our fifth speaker is Luna Rajab, and is an architect avec un DES en restauration des monuments historiques de l'école de Chaillot, and is also a member of the International Committee on Places of Religious and Ritual. So, Luna, the floor is yours.
Merci, Laure. Thank you so much. First, I would like to thank you all for this very interesting webinar and for all these efforts that has been made to make it real. And I would like to congratulate everybody for this day that we are all interested in, the day for the monument and historical sites. Thank you, Nader. Thank you, Laure. And thanks all for the team, the technical team that is behind this event. I would like to present a very important monument in Syria, in Damascus in general. I'm going to take you on a journey through a place of worship for thousands of years, the Umayyad, the great Umayyad Mosque of Damascus. Next, please. Next, please. Okay, Damascus was known, no, the one before, if you kindly go back one. Thank you so much. It is known as it is for sure the capital of the Syrian Arab Republic, and it is known for being the oldest continuously inhabited capital in the world. It is an oasis in the middle of the desert and on the road between the north, the south, the east, and the west, which make it a very proper place to build a city that lives through history. Damascus has been inhabited as early as 10,000 BC. This was proved by excavations made at Ramad on the outskirts of the city. The first big city, next please, was at the Aramaic period. And the excavations had proven it was at the 1100 BC. And during this period, Damascus became a big, very big city where they built a temple for Hadad Rahman. He is the god of the thunderstorm and rain. And it was located at the site of the Umayyad Mosque in Damascus. And they had found a piece of bas-relief that we can see on to the right during the excavation of the mosque. Next, please. Then for some people, it was turned to the temple of Zeus, called Zeus Hadad, the same temple or the same location. We don't have any idea how it was or how it looks like, and we don't have any but the development of the city, and since it became part of the Greek empire, say that it can be the turns to the temple of Zeus Hadad. Then during the Roman period, it was transformed to the temple of Jupiter, and we call it Jupiter Hadad. Next, please. Sorry, I don't, I need to follow you. Temple of Jupiter, and it was enlarged. The plan that we see for the Umayyad Mosque today, it was the inner walls, and then they built a bigger, another wall to it. We can see, next please, these are the remains of the Jupiter temple, the Roman Jupiter temple. We can see it in front of the western gate of the Umayyad Mosque. Next please. These are the remains. Next, please. In this plan, we can see the Umayyad Mosque at the center, and with the red line, these are the, we can see them now, these part of them in the urban tissue of the city. Then a church dedicated to John the Baptist was built within the walls, the inner walls of Jupiter Temple. And to the right, to the photo, we can see that this shrine has been built over the remains. They say, the story said that we had the head of John the Baptist, or in Islam it's Yahya, and they found the remains during the construction of the Umayyad Mosque. Then at 636, the
I think we have a little issue. Let's see if it's going to resolve itself. Nader, your microphone is off.
Luna, I said, Luna, you are muted. If you unmute yourself, please.
Okay.
You
can see during the period between 636 and 700, the location was shared between Muslims and Christians. And at 705, Al-Walid bin Abd al-Malik, the Umayyad Khalifa, next please, next. The Umayyad Khalifa had is it next? Yes. Had ordered to build a very known next. Okay, this plan show us the time. In purple is the remains of the. Yes, this is the plan, the courtyard of the Umayyad Mosque with its 4 elevations documented by ICOMOS. Next, please. And this is the internal courtyard of the Umayyad Mosque. Next, please. The arcades and the entrance. Next, the interior, the mosque prayer hall. Next. And this is a detail of the mihrab Thank you so much, and greeting from Damascus.
Thank you so much, Luna, for this interesting journey through the historical sites of Umayyad Mosque in Damascus. It was thank you so much for your presentation. And heading up to our next speakers, it's Anja Vintar from Slovenia. She's a very active MLC team member, and she helped us coordinating this session. And behind, thank you so much, Anja, for your support, and the stage is yours now.
Thank you very much. You can hear me, just testing. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
So hello, my name is Anja Vintar. I'm an archaeologist and a conservator working for National Museum in Slovenia, as well as for the protection of cultural heritage from in Slovenia. I'm an EP representative for the emerging professionals in Slovenia and general secretary, besides being a part of MLC team, and I'm the one who will be asking questions from the audience from the Facebook. So people on Facebook, go with the questions. Okay, so I wanted today to present to you the event that we had. Next, please. The event that we had as a part of a celebration of International Day of Monuments and Sites in Slovenia. We organized an online roundtable on the topic of the IDMS 2021, complex pasts, diverse futures, but we went a little bit deeper and we focused on the topic of the multifaceted nature of cultural heritage and heritage communities. Our wish was to include the diverse group of speakers, as much as diverse as possible. So we contacted and included people like architects, ethnologists, researchers in ethnology and cultural anthropology, conservators, archaeologists, artisans, handicraft people, and also the people from various heritage communities participated in this online event. Next, please. Our first starting point was that we wanted to have an agreement on what the heritage community is for everyone. Of course, in the frame of the NARA document of the UNESCO Intangible Heritage Convention, of Fire Convention, European Strategy for Cultural Heritage for the 21st Century, etc. So the basics were that the heritage community is made up of people who value individual aspects of cultural heritage and want to preserve and pass them also onto the future generations through public action. And our general direction was to highlight the meaning of different heritage communities that are involved in restoration and conservation of built heritage. Next, please. As a more positive example discussed was the art of dry stone walling, knowledge and techniques, which was inscribed just recently in 2018 on the representative list of intangible cultural heritage of humanity, UNESCO 2018, together with Croatia, Cyprus, France, Greece, Italy, Spain, and Switzerland. As this is the work of a joint community, of heritage community, as they are represented, it is necessary to stress that people of diverse experience work together and also learn from each other. As it turned out, the cooperation seemed to be more successful, in Slovenia at least, when the nature of communities was more homogeneous. Next, please. As the idea is usually more tempting and interesting on the paper, along the discussion, we soon realized that when integrating different communities and heritage communities in historic towns, for instance, there is quickly, and not everything is so positive, of course, that it looks, and there is quickly a conflict of not only expected outcomes, but also of inhomogeneous societies and of different heritage communities as well, which are not always synchronized or synchrone. The issues of many facets of immovable cultural conservation were mentioned during the conversation, like the power of loud minorities, the issues of public political societies, the issues of private property, which is considered as joint heritage, but also as local community heritage, and is not yet inscribed in the protection list on Slovenian protection list. And there was, of course, it was mentioned always the issue of funding. But as a positive example, there was a reconstruction of the town Stanil presented where there were different groups of heritage societies, as one mentioned before, for instance, showed that the importance of participatory management and intertwining of funding projects was really, really, really important and very noticeable. The Shing's homestead, which is the final place that we had as a bonus, is a presentation of more than 70 years of cooperation with the local community, with local heritage communities, and also, of course, owners, as well as different experts, and it showed a very, very positive outcome. So thank you very much. I tried to be as fast as possible. So thank you very much. People of the internet, go with the questions as well, please.
Thank you very much, Anya, for presenting the results of this very recent online roundtable and interdisciplinary work. It also shows us the importance of working with communities and of sharing the local practices. So thank you. Our seventh speaker is Olufemi Adetunji from ICOMOS Nigeria, and who has shared the video with us to show you today. So it would highlight input play, please.
Good day, everyone. I'm Olufemi Adetunji from ICOMOS Nigeria. I'll be taking you through a journey to Lagos Island community in Lagos, Nigeria. Within this community, there is the Cathedral Church of Christ, the first cathedral building in Nigeria. The cathedral building is located within Marina, which is one of the areas in Lagos Highland. It's bounded by different road networks from the north, south, west, and east. The cathedral is an exemplar religious building in Nigeria and managed and maintained by the community of parishioners. The cathedral building was designed by architect Began Benjamin and its foundation laid by King Edward of Wales on 29th March 1897. The cathedral started in 1853 as a small gathering of people, mainly the foreigners and returned slaves living in Nigeria at Odulami Street, Faji, Lagos.
Sorry, Suhail, I just remember that he's got some pictures in his recording.
Over the years, the cathedral...
Maybe I can share the whole video. Sorry for that.
Yes, if you do, please, please.
Good day, everyone.
Can you see it?
I'm Olufemi Adetunji from ICOMOS.
Yes, we can. Thank you.
I'll be taking you through a journey to Lagos Island community in Lagos, Nigeria. Within this community, there is the Cathedral Church of Christ, the first cathedral building in Nigeria. The cathedral building is located within Marina, which is one of the areas in Lagos Highland. It's bounded by different road networks from the north, south, west, and east. The cathedral is an exemplar religious building in Nigeria and managed and maintained by the community of parishioners. The cathedral building was designed by architect Began Benjamin and its foundation laid by King Edward of Wales on 29th March 1897. The cathedral started in 1853 as a small gathering of people, mainly the foreigners and returned slaves living in Nigeria at Odulami Street, Faji, Lagos, before moving to the present cathedral at Marina, Lagos. Over the years, the cathedral represents the experiences of Haguda, meaning returning slaves from Brazil. and peculiar history of Christianity in Nigeria, and the influence of internationalization on the early church buildings. The value of the cathedral are carefully nurtured over the years by the clergy, parishioners, and the community to ensure sustainable conservation of the authenticity and integrity of the cathedral as the model for other cathedral churches in Africa and the world. The significance of the cathedral influenced social, cultural, religious, environmental, and economic aspects of the community. For instance, the cathedral is described as a sacred place where prayers and supplications are answered. People within and outside the community enter the cathedral to commune with God, present their requests to the divine. Also, the parishioners engage in various forms of religious activities, such as giving, singing, taking sacrament, and reading of the Holy Book to understand God's plan for them. Over the years, however, the parishioners engage in various activities with other social and cultural activities, such as community procession and providing social support to the vulnerable population. The cathedral symbolizes the influence of European exploration and missionary efforts, which bring about transfer of European architectural styles to Nigeria. Also, the expansion of international trade brought about importation of building materials such as burnt bricks, galvanized zinc sheets, and cement from Europe. Through the influences, the cathedral was built using conventional materials such as sandcrete bricks and galvanized zinc sheets. Furthermore, the beauty and aesthetic quality of the cathedral connect the history of Anglicanism in Nigeria to its architectural features and aesthetic qualities. The cathedral, as an example of Gothic architecture, has combination of ogival, ribbed vaults, flying buttresses, which emphasizes the verticality and poses as light within the neighborhood. Also, the clustered columns, Latin cross, clerestory window, elinkerche, and Gothic openings. The Gothicness of the cathedral illustrates the multifaceted nature of the community, standing out within its neighborhood like a castle, combining the flying buttresses and ribbed vaults. Other values of the cathedral are connected to the environment of Lagos Island community, its economy and identity. The cathedral provides green space within the community to address the challenge of urban heat island within Lagos Island. However, over the years, the values of the cathedral are evolving from being peculiar to Anglicanism to extend to the local and diaspora communities. For instance, the cathedral is a source of local knowledge, a place for comfort and well-being, a place that extends intergenerational conversation, a place of pride, and a place for interreligious dialogue, and a space addressing the challenge of out-of-school children population in Nigeria. In conclusion, heritage is beyond the building we see or a space we experience. Heritage is what lives with the community and improves the quality of livelihood within the community. Thank you.
Thanks very much for Olufemi for his wonderful journey to such a valuable cultural heritage from Nigeria. And due to time zone issues, Olufemi weren't able to speak live now, but he is now in with us in Zoom, and he's ready to take your question if you have any of things. Heading up to our next speakers from Africa, representing ICOMOS Democratic of Republic of Congo, Zoe Kimpowaka. The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. I just realized the presentation is the old version, and would it be possible that I share my screen?
You can do, but please do it so quickly.
Yes, I will do it now.
Thank you so much.
Can you see my screen right now? Okay. I don't know if you can see my screen right now.
Not yet, no.
No. Okay, let me see. Okay. Now?
Perfect. Please.
Okay. So my name is Zoe Kimbwaka. Thank you so much for having me here. So for the topic of complex pasts and diverse futures, I wanted to focus on our trauma heritage. So I am an undergraduate in psychology, and I conducted this research along with my cousin Perle Ismail. She's studying her graduate degree at the University in Manchester with business psychology. And we both researched on the influence of post-colonial transgenerational trauma. Next slide. I cannot move. Okay. So first of all, in order to understand transgenerational trauma, we need to understand what trauma is and how trauma is divided. So there is primary and secondary trauma. So primary trauma is the trauma that we receive ourselves, and then secondary trauma is the type of trauma that we see. So for example, we see a family member suffering a very traumatic experience, and then we can get traumatized by watching it. Then there is human-made trauma. So human-made trauma could be, for example, colonialization or slavery. And then there's natural events trauma, which could be like seeing our house break down caused by an earthquake. And then there's type 1 trauma and type 2 trauma. Type 1 trauma is the type of trauma that happens only once, and type 2 trauma is the trauma that happens several times. So now that we understand trauma, it's important to know what transgenerational trauma is. It's the unconscious transmission of trauma from one generation to the next. So these traumatic effects that are transmitted across generations. So let's say this traumatic effect that we got from our great-grandfather. So how is transgenerational trauma transmitted? It could be through family milieu. Let's say our grandfather experienced a very, very, very traumatic experience, and he developed a post-traumatic stress disorder, and he developed, let's say, depression and aggression. So this will be transmitted to to our mother, for example, and the way she grew up. This probably affects her being, and maybe she develops an addiction to alcohol. And while she's pregnant with us, she starts drinking alcohol, and these effects can affect us to our how we grow up and how we develop. And then there's the other idea that trauma is transmitted through epigenetics. So epigenetics is the way your genes are constructed, but it's still not researched enough. We need to go through more generations to see how trauma can go through future generations. And it's the idea that a traumatic event can be so strong that it can affect our genes. So this is an example here in the picture. What you can see is an example of epigenetics. So above you see severe experiences of trauma. And down you can see through epigenetics how it can be transmitted to our generation, for example. So the impact of transgenerational trauma can be a vicious circle. So it can create psychological distress, so not feeling well with oneself, feelings of vulnerability. So it means that we are more vulnerable to have, for example, a depression or an anxiety disorder. Then there's the thought of reparative adaptational impacts. That means that our generation unconsciously decides to repair the family members that have gone through the trauma, and can unconsciously create also several symptoms in ourselves. It can also affect our productivity. So if we are not feeling well, we won't be productive, we won't be able to go to school, we won't be able to go to work, or we won't produce as expected. It can also create risky health behavior. So if you're not feeling well with yourself, you will not take care of yourself, and you will maybe not exercise, not eat well. And it can also affect our self-perception, so how we perceive ourselves. If our family members are not feeling well with themselves, they will portray that with us, and then our self-perception will be also distorted. So to finish with it, there's good news. We can stop this transgenerational trauma to get through our future generations. And one of the examples is to own and name your history. Try to find out about your past. Try to find out about the unspoken, to give words to these feelings. Also address present day traumas. It means we need to address our traumas today. Why are we feeling bad? Why are we addicted to alcohol? Why can't we get out of bed? And also accept and seek professional intervention. So you don't have to be crazy to go to a psychologist, and this will help you to undo and work on your trauma and make you feel better and not pass this to future generations. And to finish off, self-care. So there's this Latin saying, mens sana in corpore sano, which means healthy brain in healthy body. So take care of your body, exercise, eat well, and then automatically your brain will feel better. Thank you very much. How do I get out of here now?
Yes. Thank you, Zoe, for this enriching presentation on prevention and recovery, especially related to post-colonial transgenerational trauma. And now our ninth speaker will be the president of the International Committee for Vernacular Architecture and is a member from ICOMOS UK. I give the floor to Osam Mahdi.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone, and happy International Monuments and Sites Day. I'm a member of ICOMOS UK, but will speak today to you as an Egyptian conservation architect. As tourist brochures show everywhere, Egypt has numerous amazing monuments and sites. As a president of CIAV, I decided to use these 5 minutes to talk to you about the vernacular built heritage of Egypt, with a hope to raise your interest in the vernacular and in CIAV. Rather than selecting a site and talk to you about it, I would like to address the theme of the International Monuments and Sites Day this year, Complex Past and Diverse Futures. I would like to argue that the vernacular built heritage in Egypt is impacted by a complex past, namely Egypt's colonial legacy, and I do hope that the decolonization will offer it a better future. Next, please. Let me explain. The modern notion of conservation for cultural heritage was introduced to Egypt during the colonial period. European colonizers were interested in antiquities, archaeological remains, and ancient monuments. They paid no or little attention to vernacular built heritage. The slide shows important figures in the early days of the 20th century, such as Champollion, Creswell, Maspero, and Carter. The only Egyptian you would spot is a worker squatting next to Carter in the bottom left image. Local communities and their vernacular built heritage was considered inferior and of no cultural or scientific interest. Next, please. Accordingly, legal protection for the built heritage was designed during the colonial period to protect antiquities, archaeological remains, and ancient monuments. No legal protection was initiated and no institutions were established to identify, study, document, protect, or manage the vernacular built heritage. Next, please. The independence of Egypt resulted in replacing European conservation professionals with Egyptians and translating the laws and the studies and other documents into Arabic. However, this did not lead to decolonization of practices, as the attitudes and philosophy behind the laws, the institutions, and practices remain the same. As a result, the vernacular built heritage continued to suffer and is currently torn between two difficult situations. Next, please. The first situation, the vernacular built heritage is considered dilapidated slums and thus neglected or demolished. Most of Egyptian villages have suffered from this problem, as vernacular earthen buildings are demolished and reinforced concrete buildings replace them. Next, please. The second situation, the vernacular built heritage is considered antiquities and thus frozen in time, meaning that the fabric of the buildings is protected and conserved, but all aspects of livelihood are considered vandalism. An example of this situation is Shali village in Siwa Oasis that you see in this slide, which was listed as a monument, and thus no electricity, water, or any other supplies are permitted. Repairs are not permitted neither in the houses, which resulted in the moving out of the inhabitants to the outskirts, where they built new houses with modern materials and techniques. Next, please. Hopes for decolonized future. There is a need to identify, appreciate, conserve, and manage the vernacular built heritage as a living heritage in a manner that retains all its values. This requires major changes in laws, institutional structures, and mandates, and the introduction of vernacular built heritage in academic and professional curricula and practices. Next, please. I conclude with this quote from ICOMOS Charter on the built vernacular heritage. Governments and responsible authorities must recognize the right of all communities to maintain their living traditions, to protect these through the available legislative, administrative, and financial means, and to hand them down to future generations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ishaq, for your presentation and for finishing before your time is ending. And now we come to our next speaker and very interesting project. He comes from ICOMOS Jordan, Nidal Jarrar. The stage is yours.
Thank you, Nader, and thanks for having me so much. I'm Nidal from ICOMOS Jordan, and I'm a member at Wikimedia Levant, which is a non-profit organization to promote free knowledge in Wikipedia. As my colleagues in Spain mentioned now, we've been trying to promote knowledge through Wikipedia and through other open access platforms. And this is the opportunity to cooperate with ICOMOS Jordan to do something different by heritage documentation digitally. Next, please. Next, also. So we all of us know that the Arab region and Jordan actually has a lot of heritage sites, and they are embodied in many sites on monuments listed on cultural heritage lists. And that we need now is to document them carefully on Wikipedia and its sister wiki projects. And this is our mission here in cooperation with ICOMOS. So, as most of you know, that Wikipedia is the 5th most visited website worldwide, and it is written in more than 300 languages. And it is one of Wikimedia Foundation projects that we are working on. Next, please. So here we need to ask ourselves two questions. What about Arab heritage articles and why cultural organizations should share knowledge through Creative Commons or and Wikipedia and other platforms? To answer the first question, I need to show you some statistics from the Arabic content in Wikipedia. Actually, just to know that Arab region contains about more than or about 100 million internet users. But unfortunately, when it comes to the Arabic content on internet, it's about 100% of the total global content. And if we go deeply, we can see the number of heritage articles in Arabic Wikipedia is around 400 articles. Compared to the to English Wikipedia, which is around 2,500 articles. So we need to know that this gap has been. We need to build a bridge on this gap by using some tools. And one of them is called GLAM. And GLAM is an initiative in Wikipedia, which means galleries, libraries, archives, and museums. And it is active in Jordan and in our region in cooperation with Wikimedia Levant. And this initiative is very interested in some areas like archaeological sites or heritage sites around the world. Next, please. Through GLAM, we can do many things. One of them, donation photo archives. This is a very important tool to have our visual memory of archaeological sites. We have in Jordan, in the region, many of sites need to be documented very carefully and in academic way. And this can be done by using many tools like GLAM Wiki. Next, please. Also, many articles can be donated, and also data to other wiki projects like Wikidata and Wikimedia Commons, which is specialized in pictures or images and videos. Next, please. So what we did here is a cooperation between Wikimedia Levant and ICOMOS Jordan as a first collaboration of its kind in Jordan. And this cooperation is for documenting our heritage carefully by using Wikipedia and other tools. Next, please. Recently, actually, an MOU has been signed in ICOMOS Jordan office. And I would like to thank Her Royal Highness Dana Firas for her support and for overcoming obstacles. Next, please. Actually, this agreement had a lot of aims. One of them is increasing the Arabic content, especially in tangible and intangible cultural heritage. Also, focus on vernacular architecture because Jordan has a lot of sites with different styles, and also to activate the role of EP committee members. And by the way, yesterday was the first workshop to do a cooperation between ICOMOS Jordan and Wikimedia Levant. At the end, I would like to mention this citation by the founder of Wikipedia, Jimmy Wales. Imagine a world in which every single person on the planet is given the access to the sum of all human knowledge. And this is what we do actually in Wikimedia Levant. Next. Thank you so much.
Thank thank you, Nidal, for this presentation mixing heritage and digital technology with this interesting case study of Jordan and Wikimedia. Our penultimate speaker is a member of ICOMOS Saudi, Ebtisam Al-Walhaibi. You have the floor.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Nader, and the whole EPWG team. I'm Ebtisam Al-Walhaibi, a member of the Saudi ICOMOS. I'm also a member of the UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage Network of facilitators. Next, please. Today I'll be talking about Al-Tarif district in Ad-Dir'iyah, or as we love to call it, the Jewel of the Kingdom. But let me first take a step back and talk a little bit about its history. Next, please. So Ad-Dir'iyah was established by Malik Amredi in year 1446 to become the most important city on the trade and pilgrimage route in the center of Arabia. Next, please. 3 centuries after that, the first Saudi state was established by Imam Muhammad bin Saud. And then a few years later, Imam Abdulaziz bin Muhammad chose Al-Tarif to be his headquarters. Next, please. So Al-Tarif is located in the banks of Wadi Hanifa, northwest of the city of Riyadh, and has a strategic location at the top of Tuwaiq Mountain. Next, please. So Al-Tarif as a district has an area of 234,770 square meters and is actually considered one of the largest mud districts in the world. Next, please. So the district has 13 palaces, it has 5 mosques, and a lot of cultural assets such as a treasury, Palace Modi, and Hammam Al-Tarif. I'm going to talk about one of the landmarks there, which is Salwa Palace. It was the seat of the government in the first Saudi state, and it covers the area of 10,000 square meters. The palace consists of 7 architectural units, and they are connected to each other. The palace is where the Imam hosts his guests as tribal leaders or commoners. It's also where the Imam and his family use it as a residence. Another cultural asset there is Spalat Modi. Modi is the wife of the first Imam, and Spalat in Arabic means the building that is designed to host travelers, either traders or students who visit Dir'iyah for education and trade. They can stay there, sleep, and eat for free. This actually reflects how women at the time had great influence in the community, and it also shows that education was as important as a trade. And Hammam is also another asset there, and it serves as a public spa. So if you can see at this slide here, Al-Tarif has an outstanding example of the Najdi architects. It has the triangular openings that serve as openings to circulate the air in the courtyards. And if you can see the top corner photo, the narrow pathways would provide shelter and shadow. It also would circulate the air. Next slide, please. The urban and architectural components of Al-Tarif haven't been altered during the 20th century restoration, which respected the original locations, the plans, and the techniques. It also took in particular care to preserve the attributes of and the authenticity of the buildings and the road network. Next slide, please. So Al-Tarif is now a World Heritage Site, and it hosts 4 museums, mosques, palaces. It hosts Beit al-Arda or Al-Arda House, which is a performing art inscribed in the UNESCO's Intangible Cultural Heritage List of Humanity. Next slide, please. Al-Tarif is a destination for the visitors of the Saudi capital. It receives tourists, guests from all over the world. It also receives presidential and diplomat visits. It hosts official events such as the G20 Summit and other events. And I hope that when the pandemic is over, we can welcome you all to Al-Taif soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sam, for taking us in this journey and explaining to us these wonderful Taif sites from your country, this wonderful World Cultural Heritage site. Thank you so much. And we are now to our final speakers from ICOMOS Nigeria. Afu Said Adwimi, I think he's sharing another video here.
Yes, let me.
Yes.
I'm having a difficulty here. My screen is not working. Sorry for that. I will share again.
Okay, no worries. Shahira.
Traditional knowledge of healing and health is presented by pathology. Traditional knowledge of healing and health.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Of the Department of Jurisprudence and International Law, Faculty of Law, University of Ibadan, Nigeria. Health is seen as the most basic asset every human being has. The health of an individual and that of his family members and close associates have always been a source of concern to individuals over the years, making well-being to be synonymous with health. Traditional knowledge falls under knowledge and practices concerning nature and the universe, which is the fourth domain of intangible heritage according to the 2003 UNESCO Convention, and it is practiced by traditional healers and herb sellers. Traditional healers and healing are embedded in our roots as they provide the earliest medical care in Africa. African traditional healers play a significant role as part of the health system in Africa. The African society is medically pluralistic. This pluralism includes traditional healers as an important group of caregivers who are usually more readily available than scientific medical services, especially in rural areas. African traditional medicine practitioners claim that scientific medicine cannot cure all diseases. They can intervene in the areas where scientific medicine is weak. Despite Western education, people indulge in traditional healing because of three reasons. It is believed that the healers understand the ailment from a different perspective, while doctors rely on books. The source of the medicine and how it is made is known to traditional healers. Traditional medicine is affordable. Over the years, traditional healers have been working in collaboration with doctors to provide a more effective cure and treatment for ailments that have defied medical explanation. Medical science, however, believe that herbs are immune boosters. Traditional healers' concept of disease is on a wider plane compared with scientific medical practitioners. This has culminated in some socio-cultural and magical religious practices observed in preparation and use of plant medicines. The World Health Organization has recognized the need to integrate the traditional medicine with the scientific medicine when it defines traditional medicine as the sum total of the knowledge, skills, and practices based on the theories, beliefs, and experiences indigenous to different cultures, whether explicable or not, used in the maintenance of health as well as in the prevention, diagnosis, improvement, or treatment of physical and mental illness. Since traditional healers have a lot of influence on the local people, regulating their practice is important. South Africa has the Traditional Health Practitioners Act of 2007, which provides a clear description of the various types of traditional healers operating in South Africa and how we should differentiate between them. Several other African countries do not have any form of regulation concerning their activities. The practical regulation of spiritual healing is, however, an area that the governments of African countries have not been able to regulate in Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Suhaila. And thank you, Afra Sadeh, for this video on traditional knowledge for healing and health. Now I thank you, actually, every one of you. Thank you, every one of you, for your very insightful presentations. It was a very intense and amazing journey. I will now invite Mikel Londa, President of the ICOMOS Advisory Committee, to share a few words with us. So, Mikel, the floor is yours.
Mila esker, Laure. Nire izena Mikel Landa da. Ni naiz, Euskaldun arkitekto bat, egurraren batzordearen presidentea eta aholku kontseiluaren baita ere presidentea. Y como mi lengua materna en la reunión de hoy solamente la hablo yo, voy a repetir estos 15 últimos segundos en castellano. Me llamo Miquel Anda, soy arquitecto, presidente del Comité de la Madera de ICOMOS y del Consejo Consultivo de ICOMOS también. Bueno, en primer lugar, agradecer la invitación al grupo de profesionales emergentes a vuestro extraordinario trabajo, no solo hoy, siempre. Sois la savia del futuro de la organización, pero sois importantes ya. De hecho, sois muy importantes ya. Sois el presente de ICOMOS. Quería comentar, hoy conmemoramos el 18 de abril el Día Internacional de los Monumentos y Sitios. Se trata de un día, se trata de una conmemoración, pero no es más que un recuerdo de una celebración del trabajo que hacemos tantos profesionales durante todo el año, tantas instituciones durante todo el año y asociaciones. This year's theme is Complex Past, Diverse Futures. First of all, I congratulate all the presenters for the extraordinary presentations you've provided us. I've learned a lot with each one of you. I will apologize for how we pronounce the names. I will try to do my best to pronounce them well, but with all my respect. Héctor Aliaga de Miguel and Clara Villalba, Comité Nacional Español, Spanish Committee. Really interesting your work with Wikipedia. I'm following it closer because I belong to your same committee. But it's so important to communicate. It's so important to share and to be connected to the outside world, to be relevant. We have to be relevant. That's really, really important for us as an organization. Aylin Aksabozan from Turkey, in your presentation about your serial nomination, I would like to highlight the relevance of collaboration, of the idea of that heritage is of all. It's something global. I mean, it's something that belongs to us all. This is something that's in charters also, but it's something that we see in your proposal. It's something that we see in so many heritage sites that we sometimes unconsciously, but we share. From Abir Arkawi, Temple of Bel, Palmyra, I would like to highlight the mixture of cultures, the origin of heritage, a complex history of being that there's been, and the relation of heritage with society, which is close at the building of as heritage is being built through the years, through the centuries, but then as the heritage is being understood and dealt with and restored in cases. So conservation is far from being only a technical issue. It's something for the whole, about this whole society, for the whole society. Farika Beyaoui, de la Tunisie, tu as fait une explication très détaillée de la Médersa Montagne-Sirijia à la Médina de Tunis. C'est un exemple d'intégration des monuments dans la vie moderne. C'est encore la société qui est là. Et comment assurer une nouvelle vie, la relation d'usage et conservation qui est très, très, très importante. From Luna Rajab from Puerto Rico, and the great Umayyad Mosque, which is in Damascus, a city inhabited for 8,000 or maybe 10,000 years, which is something amazing. And I thought that 6,000 was a lot when I was working in Añana. That it's amazing. It's an example of living heritage. This is living heritage, and not only this, but this is a clear example of living heritage. And with all the sequence of cultures that have been there one after the other, and sometimes at the same time which gives complexity to the whole thing, and it involves delicacy. In every step has to be taken regarding the conservation processes, regarding policies, regarding every detail that has to be undertaken. Anja Winter, multifaceted nature of cultural heritage. The need to involve communities, the relevance of participation, that's important. That's also important. It was, in a way, in the NARA document in 1994, and it was more explicitly in the NARA plus 20 document, which was created, which was sorted out in 2014. The relevance of communities, the relevance of participation, we're going that way. We're going that way, and I think it's relevant to take into account that the future is not of experts saying amazing things, or very interesting, or very, but it's about us all and going together and being able to do the work together. So great. Olufemi Adetunji from Nigeria, Beyond Heritage, the making of the Cathedral of Lagos, which I'm not pronouncing it well, I'm sorry for that. From the 19th century, which also means the relevance, it shows the relevance of community again in conservation, and the relevance of community, the mixed influences that it had in the past, and the uses and activity, both those mixed influences and the uses and activity, actual, past and actual, gives a richness of values, which is, I would say, sorry for the repetition, invaluable. And very interesting, speaking about the evolution of values, I would say evolution of almost everything, but evolution of values, which is specifically in the NARA plus 20 document. Zoe Kimbwaka, excellent, well, excellent, you excellent all, but excellent presentation about the post-colonial transgenerational trauma with that theoretical presentation, which I was just with eyes open, like trying to understand what you were telling us. This is exactly what's about today's issue, today's theme. And I would say that just at the end, you said that there was the possibility of prevention and recovery. That's good to know, even including in the course of trauma and transgenerational trauma, which means something much bigger than an individual trauma. Hussam Mahdi from UK and from CR, vernacular built heritage of Egypt, an example also of complex past of decolonization that meant that that it was thought that it would mean a better future, and there was no, with the consequence of no decolonization of practices, which probably seems quite logical that it should happen, and it didn't. So it's about, yeah, searching our own ways, each culture, each context, and it's all the time NARA. And I'm sorry for repeating that. And it's amazing to see the contradiction, which is a clear example, the contradiction of protection and the results of that protection. I mean, on the results on the side, on the protection. So it makes us probably think about policies to widen the open of policies, to widen the open of conservation. Ned Al-Jarrah from Jordan, and documentation through Wikipedia, which is a similar case to those in Spain, both really good. Yes, it's the largest encyclopedia. I mean, Wikipedia, which means that we have to be there. We already are there. And I would say that comparing English, I remember the number, about 5,000 articles and 453 in Arabic, I would say that it's not only, it's already 453, and it's going on. So you're doing a great job, and it will be amazing. And it will, that's something. It's good to see that it's a big step. It's not a small step, but a big step. It will be very difficult to every language to compete with English. We know that, but let's try. And it's good that the fact is that being in Wikipedia, being in the media, doing what we're doing today, it's good for being visible. And we want to be visible for being useful, which is the sense of what we try to do. Etzibam Abwehaibi from Saudi Arabia and Al-Turaif, pilgrimage, exchange. Pilgrimage means, well, I mean, it's about people coming and going. It's about cultures that are shared, even if it's religious. I mean, I would say same thing for the Camino de Santiago in Spain and so many others. And it means trade, it means culture, it means exchange, it means richness, and it means influence in culture. And yeah, I would say that religion and trade have really a great relevance in cultural heritage. Yeah, and about globalization, I would say that we think that globalization is something about the 21st century, but there's examples of globalization in those pilgrimages in the past, which in a way, it was about communicating so different countries, cultures, regions. So yeah, again, it's about Nera plus 20. And finally, Afolazade Adewumi from Nigeria, traditional knowledge for healing and health. It's also about sources of knowledge, which are so different. And it's so relevant to, yeah, to understand that there is not only one way of doing things. There's no one way of getting to the information. It's about, and this is about authenticity. It's very related to authenticity and the project Journeys to Authenticity that you all are working on. And it's again about the narrow document on authenticity, about the context, about understanding who we are, each other, and of course about respect. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Michael, for your words and for your multilingual comments. I think it is really great for all our speakers to receive this personal feedback. We will now open the question and answer session. To ask your questions, we ask you to use the raise your hand button at the bottom of your screen, to turn on your cameras and to say your name and countries and then ask a question. Thank you.
Maybe if we invite Olufemi, who answered, who posed the question before in the chat to Zoe. Olufemi, if you would like to say it in person.
Oh, thank you very much for this wonderful presentation. Because the question was connected to a conversation I participated in, I think sometimes last week. We were talking about mental health, trauma, heritage, and all the rest. And many of the participants of the view that the term trauma heritage is westernized in a way, because we observe that Africans that has immigrated to another country, if they should visit any of these trauma heritage, many of them feel the trauma. But if we relate with those within the community that they stay with this heritage, they don't feel much of this trauma that. And we are trying to look at what are the causes for these changes and all the rest. And that was why I put it that, okay, can we say the term trauma heritage is relevant to African community? Is the term not another way of westernizing heritage? It's still an ongoing conversation. I just post it out there to extend the conversation further. Possibly Zoe could have a response to that. Thank you.
Thank you, Olufemi. We have a comment from Luna Rajab from Syria. She wanted to replayed her slide. Yes, please, Suhaila. Go ahead, Luna, if you want.
You need to turn on your mic.
You are muted.
Yes, okay, sorry. Okay, I just wanted to mention that all these facades that you see in front of you were covered with mosaics, and they said that it is the largest. The mosque may have the largest golden mosaics in the world. It has almost 4,000 square meters of mosaic that can be shown on all these elevations. And what makes it very special mosaics that, as Islam doesn't accept the figuration and the people, all these mosaics were gardens, cities. They are showing, of course, verses of Quran, and this architecture and this monument had started, let's say that many of other monuments around the world and many of mosques had taken this prototype of design. Thank you. I just wanted to say that because the interruption of the internet didn't give me the time to say it. I would like also to thank everybody and to thank Michael Landa for his brief. Thank you.
If anyone has any question or comments and would like to raise, please feel free to do it.
I would briefly like to ask Olufemi to ask his question again, because I think it kind of got lost. Exactly about trauma.
Yeah. If I should recap, I'd say is the coinage of trauma heritage. Is it not a way of westernizing heritage in African community?
I have the feeling that yeah, mental health is very westernized. There's more access in westernized countries for mental health, but I feel like in African countries, mental health is very underestimated, especially after colonialism. Colonialism, if we think about it, it was an extreme violent massacre, and mental health wasn't considered, and all these things are still affecting us nowadays. And from what you said, that you mentioned in the WhatsApp group of ICOMOS Africa, that it's also common for many people to go to places where slaves were kept, and to have this very emotional reaction. And it's normal because we still have this trauma rooted within us. And if research still is right, we still have this trauma rooted in our genes. And yeah, I think it's a very important topic that should be considered and should be taken into account. And I think that it's forgotten in many African countries, and also Westerners also don't consider that. They think, oh yes, African people are very strong, they went through this, it's okay. But yeah, it goes under the rug a bit. So that's why I wanted to give importance to this topic. Thank you.
Is there any comment or question? Thank you. Yes, thank you, Zoe, for your answer. It was inspiring, actually, even for the one that are not in Africa. But for yes, thank you. Now, Anya, I can see you have an question.
Thank you. Yeah, I was thinking quite a lot during this the presentations, and replying to Zoe. Yeah, the trauma that is still visible in nowadays generations. I can observe it, even though we don't have in Slovenia. After we had this Second World War and post Second World War, and countries like Yugoslavia fell apart and so on. So we had a lot of trauma situations. And what I wanted to maybe note that it is really important to consider these trauma events also when reconstructing today's society, today's monuments, and which one to keep and not to keep, also out of the Africa, also in the meaning not just from the colonialism, but also from the point of view of post-war trauma, which I can see the same events happening with the colonialistic post-trauma and also post-war post-trauma, which was really, really visible still in Slovenia, because we had not a very nice situation after the Second World War, actually. So yeah, that would be my reply. Thank you.
Thank you, Anya. We have a comment from Shika Bansal in Facebook, who said, "We have beautiful frescoes in our temples, but unfortunately system of tenders and contractors is destroying them. I am sure even in West Monument can be saved from this system." I think this comment is addressed to Luna Rajab. So if Luna, you want to add something, or it's not, yeah, as you prefer. You're still muted, sorry.
Your voice, yes. Well, I think we need to have, I think they need to have a system to protect all these frescoes from being destroyed. And I think as we have in our law, in the Syrian law, it is completely forbidden to destroy any part of the history. And you need to, of course, protect it. Now, I know that we have lots of contractors that they came in, they just look at their own interest. They don't look at the global interest of the history and the heritage in the country. But I think they can do a movement, a social movement. We have done many social movements in Syria with the NGOs, to protect these elements and to protect these monuments and to protect these frescoes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we are going to conclude here if there is no further comments. So please follow us on social media and do not hesitate to contact us if you have any follow-up questions. Join us also on our third session of this Global Café in a few hours at 10 p.m. Paris time, which will focus on cases from the Americas. We will keep you posted on our next online events. Thank you to Suela Koch, Cholo, Xochitl, Lucio, Nader Al-Nouri, Neteya Ayer, Virginia Roche, Hiroki Amada, Mikel Landa, without whom the organization of this event would not have been possible. Thank you to the speakers for their really insightful presentation, and thank you to all of you participants for your participation to this event. Merci, gracias, shukran, teshekurash, and see you very soon.